Okay, I know what that is.
Good afternoon. If everyone can please take their seats.
I don't think anything big in the floor. Yeah. And the fact they have is the.
Well, thank you all for coming. This is our first in-person event in 14 months. As you all know, all of the pre-COVID amenities are now open at Heron Bay for you to enjoy. But today we're here to talk about the future of the community. This is not the air show viewing area. This is the Heron Bay Association meeting. The meeting today is to seek input from the homeowners regarding the potential community upgrade plan for the future of Heron Bay. This is the next step in a process that started with the survey that was done and performed by the outside company. We had 2 presentations by that company for the residents to understand the findings of it. In addition, both the survey results and the Zoom of the meetings that took place are available. That it's either on the website or there is a link that was put out with Friday's update. And we're going to also have a repeat of this meeting for people who couldn't make it here today on Thursday evening. At that point, at the conclusion of Thursday, will then be the board directing the outside design build firm we will take the input that came out of the survey, the residents, the homeowners' thoughts that have been being expressed today as well as on Thursday, and give direction to the design build firm to begin the design of a very specific plan. When that's complete, the schematics will be presented at additional meetings of the community in tremendous detail, along with the financial plan and the cost implications of such a plan. That'll be available for community input in the future. At the end of that process, it comes down to what the residents decide to do. There will be a vote of the community on a plan, and that is what will determine whether or not we proceed with the plan or not. Finally, if anybody believes, and I've said this at the board meeting last week, there is no preconceived notion on the part of the board as to what this project will be. There's no cost estimate at this point, so any information that you might hear to the contrary is simply not accurate. We are also, this meeting, not only is it live, but we're Zooming, and there are residents who are watching. We are at best novices with this process. We have professionals over there trying to help us. We'll attempt to go back and forth between somebody at the podium for input, and then Minda will call on somebody on the Zoom session. Just briefly, the rules for today. There is a 3-minute time limit on homeowner input. The only subject to be addressed today is the potential community upgrade. This is not a question and answer session. This is the chance for all of you to express your thoughts so the board can understand better your views on the survey and the future of the community. The 7 of us are here to listen, and we will go back and forth between the Zoom and the live audience. One thing I was told to advise you, please do not attempt to Zoom the meeting while you're here, because that creates all kinds of interference apparently. So with that, if you could silence your phones, that would be appreciated, all of us. And we will now open it up to the participants here today, one at a time, to come to the podium and express your thoughts and vision of the community's future to the board and your fellow homeowners. So the mic is open. And it needs not to be a rush up front, but Rick, I see you're in front, so please identify who you are and what neighborhood you live in.
I'm Richard Deutsch. I live in the Greens with my wife Billy and my dog Sophie. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. And I'd like to say I am happy that the board is open and looking for all sorts of input. Everybody would always like an upgrade. I do want to point out, though, that I think even more people are concerned about the costs of paying for the upgrade. And of course, that's why we're all here. But I wanted to point out that the financial aspects and the ability to deliver what we want is really, the focus that I have in attending these meetings. The second thing, your opening remarks talk about pushing the ideas over to a design build firm. That supposes that we're already moving forward with some sort of design and build. I'd just like to say, slow and steady is the best way to go, and make everybody happy and get the best outcome. So I would say here that while we all think we're being objective, we still have our own biases and points of view. And the fact that I'm hearing already that we're going to turn over something we haven't even, fully discussed. This is the first real meeting here. I know we have a survey, but the survey itself, I think, has pluses and minuses. Information is always good, but it can also be not correct in terms of the ultimate best outcome for the desires of our diverse community. So I just want to point that out, and thank you for taking my questions.
Thanks, Rick, and I'll see you back in the neighborhood. Minda, is anyone on the Zoom with a question?
There are currently no entries in the Q&A, so anybody that's attending via Zoom should type their comments in the Q&A so that I can read them for everyone.
Okay, then we'll open it up to David. I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
David Grant from the Vistas. I chair the Fence Committee, speaking on the fence at this time. The survey had questions about the residents' use of tennis courts and tennis lessons. It really didn't cover Karen Bay's outstanding tennis program, the level of participation we have there. These things make our community attractive to home buyers. And in addition to the tennis clinics and lessons, we have leagues with multiple Heron Bay teams, mixers, an outstanding after-school program for kids, and events, parent-child tournaments, kids tournaments. And during any of these, you can come by and see the courts and tremendous community spirit. We literally have hundreds of tennis enthusiasts in Heron Bay, but we clearly have many other residents who are not interested in tennis, and understandably non-players who question the need for additional courts, especially when they see empty courts around midday. I would just point out that there's very little other activity at midday in Heron Bay or anywhere else in South Florida. When the survey ranked facilities in terms of need of investment, I think it should have focused a little more on utilization and capacity, not just what people are engaged in. For instance, although more residents certainly use the gym, pool, and so forth, it's a lot easier to get a gym slot than a tennis court. The reservation system at the time was showing lots of unused spots in the gym. And I would support an expansion of the gym, but currently we have an announcement that it's no longer necessary to reserve time in the gym with no limitation on the time spent there. On the other hand, if I want to play tennis on a weekday evening, I need to get my reservation in 8 days in advance before 7:01 in the morning that day. And that's only going to get more challenging as the league play resumes as we go forward. The courts were built when Heron Bay was less than half its current size. And I ask that the community consider a modest increase in capacity. Thank you.
David, before we leave, on behalf of the community, I want to thank you for the contribution you have and continue to make. Your work is truly outstanding, so thank you.
Well, I think we have a really good back and forth with the board and the management company, and I appreciate that relationship as well. Thank you.
Thank you. How's the Zoom calls coming?
We did have a comment while David was speaking. A few people were having difficulty understanding him. And a few people have said maybe the speaker could remove their mask while they're speaking to be heard better. That's up to you folks if you're comfortable with that. But the people on the Zoom are having difficulty. They can hear you, Neil. They can hear me, but I guess some people's masks are interfering or their voice. So that's up to you folks one at a time at the podium.
Thank you. We'll open it up then to the in-person guests. And if you're comfortable, excuse me, if you're comfortable, you can remove your mask. That's up to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Stephen Birnbaum, and together with my wife Debbie, speaking on behalf of us, we're residents of the Enclave, and basically, without being repetitive to the last two speakers who were very informative, I'm just going to get right to it. We as residents, the two of us, recently made a commitment that we've been here 5 years, and we love it here, this is going to be our forever home. Consequently, we started to invest a substantial amount of money. That being said, we have the utmost interest in keeping the community fresh, keeping up with things, and we appreciate this open forum. However, we are vehemently against increasing monthly dues with certain types of amenities that are very inclusive of certain individuals. I realize we have a lot of people here, and a lot of people to please, and some things are for some people and some that are not. So I'm going to hit on the thing that hits my wife and I the most, and that is the supplement of a vendor for a restaurant or a food venue over at the Plaza del Lago. The idea is very good and everybody wants it, but we are very much against supporting that with monthly dues, my wife and I. We feel that if there's going to be a vendor, there's already been a couple failures, and that whoever thinks they can make a go of it and be profitable for them, they need to invest in that. And we don't feel it's fair to push that type of a very small business or enterprise on that and have the residents of Heron Bay supplement that with a substantial cost. There's already been so many upgrades when Wings Plus went in there, and you're going to have weather issues, you're going to have very spotty things. The idea and the convenience for families to eat there, it's a wonderful idea. But again, there should be very little or very limited supplement. These things, again, are my views on behalf of my wife and I. I thank you guys. I thank everybody on the board and my fellow residents for the opportunity to speak here this afternoon.
Thanks, Steve. We turn to Zoom.
A property upgrade in numerous ways in order for Heron Bay to retain our property value. The addition of a cafe that serves light fares and lunch and some specialty night would be a lovely addition, plus ability to take out. I also would like to put in for what I think would be a highly popular addition, both a small and a large dog park. Thank you to the board for your hard work.
And a full disclaimer, that was my wife. She reflects her own opinions, as many of you know. Back to the live audience.
Name of that person that submitted it?
Jill Vogel,
Oh, okay.
who is healing nicely, by the way, for anybody who knows, with her broken wrist. Back up to the homeowners.
Hello, my name's Kimberly Raskin.
Sure.
I live in Bay Cove with my partner David and my disabled adult son. And we're here to express that we are not in favor of a cafe added to our dues. I think that first of all, it's only a small circle, maybe not the majority of people would actually want to buy from the cafe or even use the amenities, as we are not able to use due to the incapacity. But also we are fearful of how this will impact our ability to resell the house in this community if we are having to subsidize this cafe with our monthly dues going up tremendously. We would be, now we have a much more smaller group of people who would be interested in buying. Only people that would want to buy here are the same people that would want to buy from the cafe. So I think it's not a good idea. And I would just like to say that I'm not in favor of it.
Thank you.
Gary Magrum says he would like to see a consolidated gym to be built at the Commons should have the Commons as the athletic center and the Plaza del Lago as the social center.
Thank you. I think Steve Moskowitz was heading to the mic.
Steve Moskowitz from Bay Cove. Hi, guys. Doing a great job. A couple of things. It's interesting just hearing that comment. I guess it's hard for the cafe to make it, so I'm not even sure what to do because we don't know what the cost would be. I think people would need to know exactly how expensive that would be before you can. I mean, the idea seems great, but what would the cost be? And that's something that's still, I guess, up in the air. I'd like to support Dave's comment about the tennis. I'm active in the tennis center. We certainly could use a few more courts. And when you see empty courts, as he said, all the activity is going to be in the morning and in the evening. A lot of people who are working full time play a lot at night. And then we have Saturday morning, Sunday morning, and it's pretty hard to get court time. So that's one thing. And also something that hasn't been mentioned, but I heard about in the plan, there's something about making a park and redoing the whole golf course thing, which not exactly sure what that was. But also what concerned me was I heard that there was going to be a security measure where entrances were going to be sealed off if that was done. So I have a concern about that. I understand the security measures coming from the outside, but I can't imagine structurally how they would go. We living in Bay Cove, people living in the, what's the one next to it, the waterfall, the,
Old Brook.
right. People are constantly walking on the road by the golf course, and if that, I don't understand if that would be sealed off, that covers the road. I mean, how would you even go about conceiving of that? And it would just create such a unpleasant atmosphere because it's almost like a natural bird sanctuary, that area. So that would be my concern. If you're going to seal it off, does that mean people live inside can't walk onto that road, which now is very pleasant, people riding bikes, because we look at the golf course there. So I think that was a concern that I had. I think that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Oh, I did one more thing. Sorry.
You don't get another 3 minutes.
Okay, did I do 3 minutes? I'll give you 10 seconds. The thing that just came on the phone about the moving the athletic center to the the Commons, to me that seems like, I don't know, that sounds like a waste to me, because I can't imagine the cost structurally to redo all that stuff. And if anything, if for the card players and social, it seems to be a lot easier just to move over to the Commons. We have rooms ready and you can just do all that there. I like the way you've expanded these services now, and I think it would make more sense just to keep things the way they were and possibly make card rooms in the Commons, which would be a lot easier to facilitate without a major reconstruction thing. I just wanted to throw that in. Thank you.
Thanks again, Steve. Minda?
Paula Magrum is saying, have you seen our competition? Have you seen the new clubhouse at Parkland Bay? Check out the maintenance fees in the area. We are one of the lowest. We need to keep up our property or our property values will go down.
Thank you.
I'm Mark Levine from Waterford Estates. Been a community member for the last 20 years. Two things. One, I just want to know if the plans are to keep the ballrooms and that would be available for community use. And the second is a comment, as you can see from the 37 people present here. Do you want a restaurant or a cafe? Yes. Would you use it? Yes. Will they? No. To service 10,000 people in a community, we would need a huge restaurant. A cafe that serves snacks and some sandwiches, yes. Something that we
Support, I'd be against it. And I think we can't be compared to Park and Golf and Country Club because I didn't move into a country club. I don't want to pay a maintenance fee and have to eat $100, $200, $300 a month worth of food to support. I've been in the restaurant, while it be high-end restaurant business, for 30 years. It takes a lot to run a restaurant. And when you have empty space, you lose money real fast. So one's a question, I don't know if it's being addressed. Will we be keeping our ballrooms and be used for community affairs and events? And I don't know what kind of restaurant plan we would have, but I and a few of the people I've spoken to would be against it because I don't think people will actually honestly show up and use it. And if we don't have that, then we have to go to a monthly fee for people to do it. So thank you.
And just, Mark, just for the people present, Mark is also the president of his sub-association, and we thank you for your contribution to the community as well.
Oh, you're quite welcome. It's you guys who got the big job.
Thank you.
Helene De Gregorio writes, "We are not in favor of a restaurant or cafe that would require residents to subsidize it. Adding this type of facility to our community might impact the restaurants in our area, and they are already struggling to stay afloat. We are not a country club, nor do we feel we want to be one."
Thank you. Actually, it was somebody walking right behind you who was coming. Okay, feel free.
Hi, my name is Linda Baniel, and I'm a resident in the Fairways. And I applaud you. I thought it was a great survey that you did. I loved reading about all the input from everyone and all the options. And while I like everything, I don't want to pay for everything. So in looking at it, I think the reasonable approach that people are taking here, I have 4 kids and 10 grandkids. I love going to the pool with them, and I loved when we had something there available to eat. But I would say, like, maybe if it was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and if it was a vendor that could come in and do it. But again, the same thing. I actually, again, chose this community because there wasn't a golf course and because there wasn't a restaurant, and I didn't want to have to eat. I think where we live in South Florida, you could eat at a different restaurant every night if you wanted to, or not have it Ubered to you. And I don't think that we would be able to support, or I wouldn't want to have to support a restaurant. There could also be simpler things. Some of the other communities, where my kids are too, around the pool, they put up cabanas, to everybody have their little private section, or adding more grilling stations where people could come and barbecue could be an alternative to a full-blown restaurant. People could still cook and party and have parties there, and we have plenty of space around. I love both of the communities, both of the clubhouses. And actually, my pool at the Fairways just opened this Friday, so yahoo, we can go swimming again locally. The dog parks, I think, is a great idea. All the communities, I think the newer ones have them, and I think a lot of people here have pets and all and want to take advantage of that, so that would be great. And I'm sure, I don't play tennis, but I think if you need more tennis courts for the tennis players, that's good. I think you have to address the needs of all the specific groups in the communities. With the clubhouses, I know I'm involved in a book club, and it was always, we thought, a hassle because we couldn't have our book club at the clubhouse because it wasn't kind of a function. But if we have rooms available and if we can access them more easily for book clubs or garden meetings or anything like that, or have an easy way to do it. I apologize. I do take part in like the exercise classes and all, and to this date, I haven't been able to register for one yet. So it might need senior training for how to actually, get through with the password and everything on and sign up for these things if, we want to do it. So just some things to make it easier for people to use what we already have. And again, keeping it, upgrading the kiddie park, I think is great. Everything, I think, updating and keeping us current without turning the community into something that the people who purchased here didn't intend it to be when they moved in. Thank you.
Just on your technology challenge, I would suggest if you can stop at PBL and ask for Louisana, who's our lifestyle director, she'll walk you through the technology, so you can make your reservation.
Okay, right. I've tried several times and haven't been able to do it successful.
Next time it'll work.
But that's probably a personal problem, right?
We'll get you there. Thank you.
Okay, we have a couple of emails and we're getting a backlog in the Q&A. So I think I'll do an email and a Q&A this round. Susan Gonzalez, we do not want to add a cafe to be subsidized by the residents. If a business wishes to provide the service, they should pay for space like any other restaurant and provide food and services that warrant the attention and attendance of the residents. Let me just make a note of this. Okay, Gary Magnum has a few comments here.
Before you go to Gary, since he's already addressed it, could you go to some fresh comments?
Yes. James Constantine, wasn't a restaurant the #1 requested item from the survey? And he has a second comment. When will the master plan be developed?
Okay.
Okay, I have one other email. Let me get to that. We do not want this is from Ron Lux. We do not want the commons rebuilt. Use the rooms upstairs for cards or etc. The pool at the commons is a gem. Do not disturb. Anybody else in person?
Yeah.
Since I know time is limited, I do want to just say thank you for being here on a Saturday. It's very much appreciated. Yes, Carrie Froston with Sable Point, at Sable Point. Thank you. What the last person who mentioned about the survey, I think is very important. And I know we talked about not having preconceived notions and all that, but pre-COVID, people that are behind there right now did solicit my input about a cafe. And I do feel that the survey was very, very heavily weighted towards questions on the cafe. So I do think that a lot of the responses that were given, people said, do you see it on a survey? Do you want it? You answered yes. So I do think there was a lot of weight put towards that, and that's why a lot of people answered it that way. But I think you're hearing a lot of people here today, although it's a very small sample size, say that they're not in favor of it. Myself, I think if the community wants it, I'm all in favor of it, but I don't necessarily think that it is. 40% of the people said they're not interested in having one dime spent out of their own pockets go to the cafe. And it was a little concerning that the person who gave the results of the survey kind of just blew that off like that was a small number, that most people were in favor of it. So I do think that the people who said no to it need a little more say. And also the other people were given options of either subsidizing it and or having some sort of monthly minimum sort of thing. If they were not given their option, maybe they would not be in favor of it as well. So as Richard mentioned earlier, before we just go diving into doing plans and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on some kind of design build, so then we first cost it out, I do think we need to make sure we crawl a little bit first before we walk. We're not Parkland Golf, we're not Parkland Bay. I know we've heard a lot about property values, but has anybody checked the value of their property lately? I literally tried to move and buy a house in Heron Bay. I couldn't afford anything. So our property values are not going down. Parkland Golf was always designed to be a higher end community than ours. Parkland Bay is brand new, but it's not the clubhouse that is making their property values higher. It is the bigger houses and more modern prices. So we don't have to compete to be with them. We have to be the best we could be within Heron Bay. The refresh that was done for, I believe, $220,000 to the clubhouse was amazing bang for the buck. Most people still haven't had a chance to really see it, but it's beautiful. It was designed perfectly. Those type of things I think need to happen all the time. And I think we probably have it in our reserves to continue to do that. But a major investment in some sort of cafe could be in the millions of dollars range. And I think we need, before we dive into spending on drawings and things like that, that could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, I think we need to have better cost estimates first. And one last thing about the cafe, you get one person say they didn't like the piece of chicken they had at it, word spreads and it dies. This is a very fickle town when it comes to restaurants. I'm sure you all see it on Nextdoor. If that happens here, our investment in it is done and it's just gonna sit there vacant like the Cabana does. So one other thing I would really like to see that hasn't been discussed today is whatever we could do to try to add a third lane to both the south and north gate, I think would be money well spent. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Marshall Wexler, I would like to have guests be turned away if the homeowner does not use the app rather than put in a third lane. If homeowners were required to do this, then the guest lane would move quicker and residents would be notified on their phone. Other communities use this approach with much success.
Good afternoon, Dennis Sierra, Good Greens. I've seen when you guys presented that, I went in Boca Raton to check a lot of the communities that have restaurants. And to my surprise, people don't use them. They don't use them. People start bringing, because they say that the cost of that restaurant and it's too much. So, and then they have kids. So what happens? They start bringing the same thing as they did before. The McDonald's, the other things that they don't have to pay, they already have it in their houses. So it's gonna become something that we're all gonna pay and we're not gonna use. So, and you can check it, and then I talked to one of the owners at some of the restaurants and they said that it's basically empty. So very few people really use them. And what happened is that a lot of those restaurants leave and then we get a vacant for another thing. I don't know how the your structure is going to be for the rental part of it, but from what I see, is not a good investment for us. Also, the clubhouse I think is beautiful. It does need maybe some renovations, like the other gentleman said, but I think the people that use it regularly are happy with it. Maybe we need to get an architect and have them maybe, like it says, spend for the dog park and other things. But with the economy the way it is, everything I think it's going to be very challenging for a lot of people here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being.
Thank you. Linda?
I only have comments left from Gary Magro.
Sure, go right ahead.
Okay, there are several. Putting the cart before the horse. There was no evidential matter that the community would have to be assessed to support a cafe. Believe that the Four Seasons Cafe is not supported by the community. The board should be visiting other communities to see how their cafes work. Parkland Golf and Club was not mentioned. Four Seasons is not a country club and they have a cafe. Also, Seven Ridges has a cafe. The cafe could be open for breakfast and lunch. Regarding a dog park, not a lot of green areas for this park.
Could you repeat the dog park comment? I'm sorry.
Regarding dog park, not a lot of amount of green areas for this park.
Is that it for Gary's comments?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ivo Karajov and we're living in Sable Point.
Would you repeat your last name, please?
Karadjov, Karadjov.
Thank you.
So I just want to express like some points.
Could you talk into the mic, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
So I appreciate that you're trying to make a decision based on data and not based on some other like emotional grounds, but I think we're missing 2 points up to this point, what I'm seeing for the whole process. First, the survey was done pretty limited. The only approach was online, and that is reflected in the participation rate, which is only 30%. We had probably the last 2-3 months, I haven't seen any efforts to reach with other means for the people that didn't participate in the survey, to gather their opinion about the subject that in discussion. The other point is like, I don't see the data from the people that moving in the community. For the last year or year and a half, there have been a lot of new neighbors in any subdivisions. And I never heard those people saying, oh, I wish, I moved because, there are great schools here. There are a lot of kids in the community. I never heard of them, oh, I wish the pool was better. Or I wish there was a cafe or whatever. I think like there's a kind of disconnect from my point of view, from the reasons that people are moving in this community, for the value that this community provides to families, and for the efforts that you're trying to put in place to improve the community in certain ways. I don't see like the driving force from the community. I feel that, as someone said, this survey has some focus on certain things that try to prove to be justified. And in general, like, I'm not sure why this is the whole approach, like trying to improve something without coming first with budget. I never heard there's a budget for this, there's a budget for that. I don't have clear idea what is the budget we can spend on that to improve stuff. And I like someone that say, we should focus on utilization, not on expansion. There are many ways we can improve what we already have. Like the tennis courts they mentioned. They think, basically, if you're not a regular tennis player, it's hard to find a good spot. And that should be addressed and changed, because like people that you don't stand your phone like to book a early morning tennis court 8 weeks ahead of time, you're not gonna get, and with family it's hard planning. I cannot play with my kids like what they're gonna feel like 8 weeks ahead. That has to be approved, I guess. And one last point to say is like I would expect like to have some improvement, like more focus on improvement in the survey. And because what we can improve it, for example, all the maintenance expenses. We can focus how to like more diverse to better renewable sources of energy. Like some schools, they're using solar heaters. I don't know how much we pay for those heated pools for the electricity bill, but like that will be also a good example for the kids that living here, that, you know, our community puts emphasis of making things better, because the kids, I don't think like most of the kids, they don't care if we have a cafe or you bring a sandwich from home. For them, the pool is a great time spending with a family. And that's all what I have.
Thank you.
Elaine Cunahan says, I agree with others who do not see the real value of the cafe or restaurant in the Plaza del Lago, especially the possibility of additive cost. I do not think it will be utilized as an additive value. Second, as a Tuscany resident for 20 years, I do not want a third lane. My house is outside the security gate, not within the boundary after the security gate, and the noise pollution has gotten worse over the years with speeders as they leave the gate, when the guardrail is up. I do not want a third lane closer to the property line behind the Tuscany development for the south gate. I agree with the other resident regarding the ease of use of the app, and it should be followed by all. We all use other apps in our daily lives, so this should continue as main source of guest entry. Thank you for your continued work to make Heron Bay a safe and wonderful community to live in.
Okay.
It's Maria Ochoa. I'm living in the Greens, and we have been living in this community since 2003. And something that I don't want to be unrespectful, but I want to know what was the reason of this survey? Who has these decisions to do this survey? Who is paying for this survey? Also want to know if the management company is involved in this survey. Because most of the people that I have been talking and that we have been communicating in different apps, they are not agree with this. And I feel that, like the other guy says, we are very disconnected between you and us as a community. And we need to fix it. We don't trust in you guys. We don't trust you. We are really disappointed with what's going on with the last, the way that you did the last, the presidents and the election, that a lot of people was missing during the online. I couldn't get into the online. And when I heard it was only 10 minutes. What's going on? I know that we are in the COVID-19 situation, but doesn't mean that we have to be disconnected in this way. And also, if you see yesterday, the news that the unemployment increased 6.1%. We have to be careful with those situations. We cannot lend money that all the other people needs to pay for that. This community is beautiful. I have been living here for a long time, and I don't see the reason why we need to do new places to walk in. This place has a beautiful places to walk in, all the family. Why we need to do something more to compete with the other communities that are around? We can compete with the prices of the houses. With houses right now are increasing prices, but the difference between Boca and here is that we don't have to pay those country clubs fees. Please be sure that we can have more communications and to have more, that the people can express more about this. Thank you.
Anyone online?
There are no other questions in the Q&A. Let me just check the email.
In the meantime, Patty Moskowitz is going to come to the mic.
And there are no emails.
I just wanted to address, I live in Heron Bay. There's a park next to the tennis courts, and it's a great place to take my grandchildren, but I think it really needs to be upgraded. I don't know if you have addressed that yet. That's the only comment I have. Thank you. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. Anyone else? There's a whole group in the back that haven't come forward. We can call on you, Sue and Wendy and Bruce, if you want to come up. Thank you.
Ken Goodman, Cypress Point. I'm being repetitive, but I'm going to basically repeat what the others had said about the restaurant situation. Around the corner from here, there's at least 6 or 7 restaurants if people really feel the need to leave their home to eat. The average person probably spends 2 or 3 hours at the clubhouse. Maybe they should eat before they come to the clubhouse so they won't be hungry while they're there. We tried this before. We should learn from history. You had Bonner in the beginning, $23 for open bar, $7 for a hamburger. Husband and wife and 2 children, you know what they'll spend at those prices? Okay. And then you had Frankie's. I believe Frankie D's closed. Anticipated chilly temperatures and low attendance. That night, the temperatures were 6 o'clock, it was 71 degrees, 6:30, 69 degrees, 8 o'clock, 66 degrees. That's not really chilly. There must be another reason why they failed. Like the other speaker said, this is not a country club. There's no expectation of a nice restaurant. It probably would fail here again unless you put in a large sum of money and people don't want to have their dues increased. I believe Paula on the Zoom said that she's concerned about property values falling. May 15, 2019, we had a similar meeting like this, except there were about 135 people, not 50 people like we have here today. And that comment was reiterated at that time also. Property values have done nothing but go up since then. Property values are not going to fall because we don't have a glorified clubhouse. Actually, it is glorified. When I bring friends to the clubhouse, they walk in the door and say, wow, this is like a 5-star resort when they look at the pool and the pool area. It's only 13 years old, 2008. I mean, if you bought a brand new home 13 years later, would you be renovating it? Probably not. And like it was said before, we already spent a lot of money getting rid of the antiquated furniture and putting in new carpeting, new walls, new furniture to be more contemporary. And it does look pretty nice right now. So let's see what else. I guess that's all I have.
Thank you.
I have another comment from Paula Magram. She says, I think the biggest issue is money. At this point, we have no information on cost. If people know what it will cost them, they will be able to make a more informed decision.
Anyone else? Well, seeing no one else, and there are no other Zoom questions and comments, one, on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time on a Saturday afternoon to come out and share your thoughts on the future of the community. We will be repeating this forum on Thursday evening. If you'd like to come a second time, by all means. We have a whole other group that's signed up. Your input is critical, and we have said that from the start of this process. We have tried to keep it as open and transparent as possible, and at the end of the day, any plan will be reflective of the desires of the homeowners, because this board does not, and would choose not to, even if it could, be the ones who make the decision on the plan, whether it's going to be approved or not. That'll come down to what the homeowners decide. And I want to thank you all for being here. Please stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you. Thanks.